So today we're going to look at how we can use our dev tools to do some basic performance analysis of a website and find out what files are being loaded and where they're coming from and how big those files are and how long it all takes and some things like that. So to start with, we'll need to open DevTools, and hopefully you'll remember that we can do that by right-clicking and inspecting, or we can go to the View menu and Developer, and we can go to Developer Tools, or we can use this shortcut that's specified here. But I'll just click on this menu item. That brings up my development tools. Now, normally you start off in the Elements tab over here, or possibly the console, depending on how you open DevTools. But what we want to do is we want to be on the Network tab. And it's important that you have the Network tab open before you start this activity, because you need this tab open to be recording the network activity. So once we've got the tab open, we can do a reload on this page. And you'll remember that if we have DevTools open, caching is normally disabled, so we won't see caching working. There's an option somewhere. If we go into settings, we should be able to here we go, disable cache while DevTools is open. So we have that turned on, so our cache is disabled, and that will affect what we're seeing in the network tab. Now, when we reloaded that page, that put a load of entries into this block here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make this a whole load bigger so you can see what's in here. Now, each of the rows in this table is a request that was made to the web server, and we can see what was requested and where it was requested from. We can see some complicated stuff called the method and the status, which are things that HTTP as a protocol tell us. And we can see these are all 200, so that's okay, but non-okay values in here might be bad. We can see the types of the things that we've got. So JS, JavaScript files or scripts, CSS files or style sheets, the main HTML as a document. You might also see other things in here. We can see the initiator, which is the file that caused this request to be made. And then here's all the interesting stuff. We can see the size of the file, and we can see how long it took to download the file. And we can also see what was going on with the request. We'll probably ignore this for now, but this kind of shows you the order in which everything happened, the order in which all the requests were made. And then right at the bottom, this is the really interesting bit. We can see we've got 14 requests, just over 200K was transferred. It took 2.05 seconds to completely finish making the page, and there was a thing called DOM content loaded, which was in 1.69 seconds, and another thing called load, which is in 1.72 seconds. It's kind of useful to understand the difference between these things, but I won't go into the details of that here. But you'll get an idea that this web page is loading in something between 1.5 and 2 seconds, and that's reasonably good. Now, what we might want to do is, if these values are really, really high, is we might want to try and work out what is causing it to be high. So if you're making a large number of requests, then you will see all those requests in this list, and you might see there's lots of bits of JavaScript being loaded or something, and you might be able to ascertain why so many requests are being made. If the total size of stuff being transferred is really, really high, then probably what you want to do is go and look at this size column, and you can click here to sort this column. If I click it twice, it will put the biggest thing at the top. So the biggest thing here is this header image, and it's 112K, and it took 264 milliseconds to download that. So the image is obviously the biggest thing on the page here, and you can sometimes see things like super large images appearing in this list that need some image optimization to reduce your page load time, or things like that. So hopefully you can start to see how this network panel is a really useful way to work out if a website is slow, or if a website is downloading lots of scripts and lots of images, or downloading some images which need some optimization. This is a great way to find those things out. It's also worth noting that for any request, you can click on the request and get lots more detail about that request. You kind of need to understand a bit of what's going on with the HTTP protocol here. So this is some more in-depth technical stuff, but if you're a bit more of an expert on how the web works, you can use this to do some really, really interesting debugging and diagnosis of the requests that are being made. And yeah, there's lots of useful information here. Form submission information goes in here, all sorts of useful stuff. You can do some other things as well. You can, oh, here's a disable cache toggle up here. So if you want to try that, Let's try that and reload the page actually. So this is with the caching turned on. So we already have some of the assets loaded. We should hopefully see that, there you go, rather than transferring 250 odd K, we only transferred 54K. So because stuff was cached inside the browser kept a copy of it. It didn't have to download as much stuff. And you'll see that the request was a little bit faster as well. So that's really good. So you can toggle that there. We can do some other interesting stuff. I won't talk you through these, but if you're looking for a particular thing, so if we're looking for that header file, we can type header in here. There we go. So we can see that in that filter. We can also choose to filter by the type of thing. So I can see all my images, I can see all my JavaScript, I can see all my CSS, and so on. And so you can quite quickly and easily navigate around this and try and do that diagnosis of performance issues or network requests or whatever you find that you can use this network panel to do. I use this a lot in diagnosing performance issues and diagnosing things like form submissions. It's a really, really useful panel, and it's good to just understand a little bit of what it does and how you can use it. So hopefully that's you now.